high school when there was no internet and or beginning of internet. You can do a library book. I went to college and I graduated college in 2000. And that was, you could look up the internet, you can see some picture, but the internet wasn't the internet yet. So there was no internet and then there was internet. Everything's connected. Now we've had 20 something years plus, but really 2000-ish to now. So let's just say a meaningful 2 decades where computers have built huge database. The computational power is so big. And the internet was a tool. Now you can let the tool use you, or you can use the tool. Most people had the tool use them. They volunteered information.
They didn't know about it. They didn't think about it that way. No.
Well, just like they say, if it's free, the product is you. All these services, Facetune, the product was you. The Instagram, the product is you. YouTube, the product is you. All our stuff that we like to see ourselves, we're not newsworthy, right? Michael Jordan has never taken a selfie in his life because he's newsworthy. He goes out, he does his job, and he's in the newspaper. But magically, we have such big egos that we need to have our own little social media. We're not newsworthy or media worthy unless we go invent something cool, or we're important to our mom, we're important to our dad or our husband or our wife or whatever. We're important to our kids, but we're not important. There's only this much. But what this did is made us all feel important. So we volunteer all this information, and now the tool is using us to go and sell you back the black shirts that we have, or maybe you have better hair care products than I do, right? So
I might have that. I guess it is that way.
Right? So it's giving us back what we asked for. So the tool is using us. Now I can say that there's plenty of people that they do use AI as a tool. Now, a tool could be, I want to do iterative design. So I have a really good idea at work, whatever you do for a living. And I can come up and generate ideas quicker. I don't have to write the whole thing out. I can get to the point and I can expand and contract it. But it's only as good as my prompt. So what I'm telling the tool to do. So if I don't ask it a good question, it doesn't give me a good answer. And if I constantly am looking at, we'll say the bad stuff, you define whatever you think's good and bad, but we'll say the bad stuff. What's it doing for us? Now, if I go in and I prompt it and I give it good input, it gives me good output. If I give it useful stuff, it gives me useful. So if I just say, write my report, I know what every kid's doing cheating in school. I know that came off of ChatGPT. I know everybody who wants to be an influencer. Well, what are you really influencing if every kid has the same hammer, nail, and saw, and you don't know how to use it? It doesn't make you a carpenter. It's a tool, right? So if I look at, for example, yesterday, I was with who I consider to be one of the top surgeons in the world, and U.S. News and World Report had this person as one of the top. What they were able to do is watch the surgeries that they do more often and see when they do great and learn from what they did great. And the stuff that the data showed that it wasn't as good or wasn't at their median, and tell them where it was off. So they fed them film, they fed them patient outcomes, and they're able to learn quicker, faster, better. There's teachers who can put stuff out and see how it's received by the students and run back tests. The last 5 years I gave this test, the kids were like this, they got jobs here. The ones that I taught this way became better students. Now at the exact same time, there's people trying to make up imaginary boyfriends and girlfriends. There's people trying to do bad things. So they're using the tool for bad things. Also, there's plenty of people who are just average at work and they get this little thing and they chat GPT everything. So a long time ago, it was you used to have to count on your fingers. Then it was you were calculator dependent.
Oh, you have that there. Okay, that's amazing.
I'm a nerd. Of course I have it.
Okay, of course, yeah.
I got I mean, if you really want to know if you're on with a nerd, I got one of
Yeah.
these too. Okay.
Oh my God! Wow,
Yeah. So
is
the
that
nerds,
something
us as
antique?
nerds, we have this stuff here already.
Yeah, I can imagine when you're in cybersecurity, you have to have those stuff. Okay, yeah.
So you count on your fingers, and you weren't good at math. Then you were calculator dependent because you couldn't do the math. Now, how many times have we been at dinner or anywhere with someone or lunch, and you ask a question, and everyone's sitting there going, because they're just Googling what their opinion should be. Whether it's true or not, we don't know.
They can't anymore. Yeah.
They Google fact check you. There's always that one guy or gal that you hate that when you say, I'm wearing red, and they go, actually, it's crimson, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I Googled it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, now what's everyone doing? ChatGPT, da da da, la la la. So you went from counting on your fingers to calculator dependent to Googling everything, Google fact checker, so you can be the enlightened one and virtue signal in the room. Now it's ChatGPT, right?
And what is next then? Because we are getting more and more, less and less personal then. We get more stupid. Or what? We don't need to think anymore, right?
No, so people run business. People run businesses and adults run their families. The most meaningful thing you've ever done had no electricity, maybe the lights or something, but it was like this. It was in person. It wasn't like this. This is good technology, but it was in person. The most important deal you've ever closed was not on a Zoom call and was not by text or a meeting. If you go and make decisions at a company we heard of, it was done face to face. It's done with the handshake. So ultimately, it's this. So we are as connected as we've ever been. We have the best tools. You're on the other side of the planet right now, and we're having an interview, conversation, high def, all the fancy stuff. So we're using a tool to do that. But we choose not to do that. When I come home, this is off.
That's good.
There's nothing on. I turn it off because I don't need this to play with my beautiful daughter, Anna Capri. I don't need this to go play baseball, Benjamin. I don't need this to talk with my friends. I need it to do work. But I'll say you on this, no text. I check email 2 times a day. I don't let the tool use me. I use the tool. Same thing with AI. I can do iterative thought, iterative design. I can ask meaningful questions and do better research. I can understand your perspective or perspectives better prior to an interview, maybe learn about your culture. I can use these tools for great. Or I can just make it be my new Google, my new calculator, or my new fingers. So this is our choice on how we use the tool. It's also our choice on how much we use the tool and how dependent we are. Because if little kids see mommy doing this all day, right?
Yeah, of course they do the same.
They do the same. And then if they see dad doing this all day and then doing this all day, and they see mom and dad doing this all day, or
it's horrible.
Doing this all day, they're going to mimic us. So that's our choice. What are we doing with these tools? They're great tools, but are we doing the right things with them?
Yeah, and I can tell you something because here in Sweden, I'm in Sweden, and we have a lot in the news right now about the development that younger children are saying no to the mobile phone, because they have too much information. So I think that development for hopefully next generation is like, oh, I don't want that. It's like information overload.
I believe that they do, because my son, who's 10, said, and he said it a funny way when he was little. He said, I want to invent a phone breaker so people don't go like this all day.
No.
And what he sees is when daddy, this isn't a phone, this is a computer. The important people, see?
Yeah, that one, I would like to have that one again. That's better.
Yeah. Nokia, right? $50.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's a phone. We talk on it. Wow. So would you imagine that a person that has one of these has this off, and if someone needs to talk to me, this is $50, right?
You are such a role model. This is really amazing, because this people need to hear. I hope that it's a development that really gonna be that way.
And I'm in tech, so I should be with all this fancy stuff.
Yeah, but you perhaps you have so much information. I mean, people that are like me. I'm sitting a lot in the computer, but I also have the mobile phone as a tool as well. But it's so much stuff there on that you have to use it. But then I guess, okay, perhaps the younger engineers now do what you do. Buy no smartphones, stop the smartphones.
Well, the smartphones aren't smart. The people are dumb, and the phone is now their brain.
Yeah. But if you talk more about this, about like with AI, how it rises and everything also, of course, it has to do the digitalization and mobile phone also. But I'm just curious because people are like, when we talk about uncertainty in future regarding this, you told me about this, there's a lot of positive things you can use with AI. But people say, okay, what about the jobs? What about the privacy? But what about the sense of identity? You know, people get stuck in that focus when you talk about AI. Yeah. And then I want to go into this about trust. That what is the future of trust?
I want to talk about the job stuff. So I'm going to use America as an example, but there's an equivalent everywhere. Okay.
Yeah, please do.
Not too long ago, when you went to school, college, like my parents' generation, you had to be smart to get into school. And college wasn't for everybody. We go K through 12 here, high school's 9 to 12, and then there's college. College has turned into 13th grade. 13th grade. Everybody needs to go to college. Well, now everyone goes to college because that generation, the boomers, said, we got to go to college, you can't get a job. So all the skilled trades went away. So now in America, who were very much a manufacturing powerhouse for a lot of industries, you can go to school for 6 years and get an engineering degree, and you come out, you make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 to be an engineer. Very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But there's no welder, and there's no machinist, and there's no truck driver. And the truck drivers make $100,000. The welders make $80,000 to $120,000, and the machinist who gets an apprenticeship makes $80,000 on a 40-hour work week. They also make more than some doctors. So when you get too much of this, the skill stuff goes away. Now you're seeing, when I'm good at this and all this, what are my skills? I hope that I don't have 5 years of only being able to do math with one of these. But if you ask me what 2 plus 2 is, I have to go. And that's what we've become at work. Make the presentation. Well, ChatGPT, the sales pitch that's persuasive for a person in a red jacket. Well, I learned nothing about you. So now, what is your actual skill and what's your value if this can beat you at everything? If everybody has one of these and you can beat an unskilled, what is your real skill? Is your skill listening? Is it talking? Are you a great artist? Are you good with your hands? Are you actually smart? Or did you just go to college? And you know you can't do anything without a computer. Can you get sticky notes? This is my day. Playing with sticky notes, making process flows. Can you do a sketch? Some people can do a sketch, right? Some people start out with pencil and paper, okay? Some people start out with markers. Some people...
Yeah, but where does that go, do you think? It's going to go back to that? Or is it something that... Because I believe that it's going to be like an overload of information that people get tired of this.
Well, they're tired of it, but there's a double-edged sword now. Because if you don't use OpenAI, DeepSeek, Gronk, if you don't use it, I have a competitive advantage over you because I have access to so much information. And if my skill is asking real high-quality questions to generate really good prompts, prompt engineering, I can be an AI master and not even go to school. I just got to be like a little kid and go, why? And it can write code for you. But that's still not your skill.
No.
Because when they turn the electric off, are we just a bunch of idiots with cell phones? No. But I will say in the last 10, 15 years, finance, maybe. Service industry, robots have replaced CSRs. So where you don't have a high skill that can't be learned by a computer, you better be skilled. Engineers will always have a job because they have to make it work, right?
Yeah.
Doctors will always have a job. Business people, let's say finance. What are you good at? Relationship management? Well, then good. You can build relationships and then it'll go on the computer. If you're selling stuff, I still have to be able to be persuasive or informative. If I'm an educator, I still have to be able to get a bunch of totally different people and read body language. So the core part, people who build things, people who make things, people who mine things, people who move things, people that create food, people, that stuff will never change.
No.
The actual job and the skills that make life go around will never change. It's these tools and how we use them. So if we've been programmed, no pun intended, to be a bunch of computer monkeys at work, not allowed to think, not allowed to question, and then the system won't let us, and now it's just backstab and politic and kiss up and kick down, and we're all calculator dependent, that's a bad direction. So how do we choose to engage? Do we choose to keep our secrets to ourselves? Do we choose to be the ChatGPT wizard in our little office and not share it and make us look like we're so brilliant? Or do we share with the rest of our team, hey, I see you did this. I would have researched this before. I get it over here. I use a tool to do this. And now instead of doing a saw, now I would say the AI is just an electric saw, right? So you don't have a guy going like this to saw down a tree. They have a saw. So all the AI really is instead of hand tools, you now have mechanical tools. That's how I would explain that to anybody.
Yeah, interesting, because I think that if you could talk about the jobs and everything, people are scared about what you're telling me. It's about the human abilities and the characteristics and personalities that they never go away. And AI is there as a tool, and we have to have our skills still, of course. I would like to ask a little bit about, if we talk about AI again, and a bit like how we see there's so much more than ChatGPT, of course. But it's somewhere it will anyway have some kind of decision-making control over us, right? Because it is programmed and it's developed in a certain way. How do you think that will, do you think we have some kind of, how do we change that? Or do we want to live like that? Or is it something that we need to, because if we don't like this digitalization, if you don't like all the information overload, and we don't like to get answers quickly, we would like to have it as usual, as we did before, right? So how do we reclaim that control? Do you think we can do that?
100%. I would say that, and I'm going to go in a couple directions, and this is going to make people's heart beat a little faster or hold breath or whatever, but I'll use the States. I travel the world, and the US has 50 states. It might as well be like 50 countries, because if you talk like this, you're down in Texas, and somebody in New York don't understand you. And in California, bro, we got the surfer, bro. So it's like we got all different countries. And what Europe doesn't understand is the size of the United States. And it's not like when you're in the UK and they go UK versus US or France, or we could fit 5 UKs in Texas. We could fit 20 Frances and not 20, but 20 Frances in California, right? So they don't understand the magnitude. So now I go like this. What just happened here? We had the media tell a story, and it was delivered to us on this, and it got us in emotional land. And we had a certain leader, and they really didn't like what happened. And then there were systems that may or may not have cheated. But when somebody is that convincing and put up that much results, and the people liked them that much, they overcame all the manipulation.
Yeah.
And so I would say if you got the most popular votes in recorded history, you won the electoral college, and you won every swing state, and you had the system against you and the media and the manipulated stuff and and you still won, you can't be too bad. But now, and in US, they're all happy. And that's what they voted for. Now, since that happened, I've been to three or four or five countries in Europe since that happened. He's the Antichrist. It's the end of the world. We're all going to die. Russia, China, US, blah, 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 blah. And what do they get it? Did you go there? No.
No.
Where do you get your news? Instagram? Okay, that's where you got your news. Instagram? Mm-mm. Now, here, when we changed our government at the federal level, they say we don't need federal government. We'd rather have more state and local. So New York can operate like New York, and Texas can operate like Texas, and California, bro, can be. They can all have states' rights. So that's like EU versus individual countries. If I go to Sweden, Sweden's not the same as Spain, is not the same as Italy, is not the same as the UK, is not the same as Serbia. They're all different.
Yeah.
So when we elect people that say, I don't like the spying, I don't like the privacy, I don't like the manipulation, it's up to us as humans, whether we take out the garbage or we are the top of the food chain, the people that we elect, because that's the one thing that we still do as people. We still go in and say, you or the other person. And as long as we're not listening to this thing and we're not voting on social wedge issues or what our girlfriend thinks we're going to do at the luncheon or something, those goofballs don't get to manipulate the system anymore. They don't get to put their thumb on the scale. So if you're afraid of AI, not you, but if someone's afraid of AI, really what they're afraid of is their local, state, or federal government putting their thumb on the scale. No freedom. So there are countries in the world that the government controls everything. You can use a certain country that left the European Union and see how it's going right now. They don't run the world anymore, and they lost their way perhaps. And they're also not the powerhouse. Too much regulations, too much bureaucracy, and they don't make anything. They don't mine anything. They don't contribute to technology. You have people from everywhere else coming there, and they said, hey, country that starts with an R, we don't like you. But US, we don't like you either. So they've become, they don't like the country that starts with an R or the country that starts with the U, and they're about this big, and they have exactly no military, and they want to go send people to war. So you see another perspective. Now the people there will say, you're wrong, you're a wanka, blah, blah, blah. Okay, why? Is that your opinion, or did social media tell you that? Did the news that's manipulated by your government tell you that? Did you go to your echo chamber that you built on products you like with people that hear that you resonate with, and all you're getting back is a mirror image of what you like, because their job, the tech company's job, is to keep you on this app as long as possible to extract you. So that's a choice. Do I want to use the tool, or do I want the tool to use me? Because the governments, big or small, local, state, federal, or city, country, EU, or whatever it is, do you want them to use these tools against you? Vote the right people in and choose what you put and don't put, and choose how you use a tool and don't use a tool, and vote on laws that enable you freedom and don't have all these restrictions and bureaucracies. And you see a lot of countries right now that went, just like you said, tech went too far this way. Now it's going this way. Well, in politics or governments, you're seeing countries over the last 5-10 years all the way this way. And now there's a lot of them are going all the way that way. Right. So that swing has happened. I really think if you're scared of AI, you either have no real skill or you're scared of your government, but you're not scared of the tool, because the hammer doesn't get up and hit you in the hand. The saw doesn't get up and cut you, right? AI doesn't get up and do anything to you. Now, people who want to do goofy things will use these tools to do stuff to you or to manipulate how you think and do. But so does Microsoft Excel. If you put in the wrong numbers, you get the wrong answer. If you don't type right, your presentation looks like crap. If you dress with your shirt turned on backwards, right, that's your fault, right? So how we use these tools is what matters. And when I hear people are scared of AI, they either are scared that they're not as special as they've told themselves that they are, or unique, and they're just regular. Here's a little hint. All of us are just regular. None of us have boats, airplanes, jets, Lambos, 50 Birkin bags. All that stuff's pretend. And if you do have it, you're in the 1% of all people walking Earth. We can't have half of us be in the 1%. But what does social media do? Every woman has a $20,000 purse. That doesn't make sense. Every girl in college now has a Louis Vuitton bag, $4,000 bag. My car cost $1,000 when I got out of college. And there's kids walking around with $4,000 bags. There's guys that have $50,000, $100,000 watches and they still have credit card debt. It doesn't make sense.
No.
But what is that? That's us being used.
Yeah, and I think if we go back to what you said also earlier, because we talk about organizations and government and everything about trust. If we put it on a more, because I have a question that I just came up with, because it has to do with, we talk about trust. And if we talk about trust, we think about AI and do we know if it's something that can manipulate the system? Do we know that we're talking to our loved ones, or when we are somebody's calling us, or those kinds of developments? That is what I think people are really scared about. Do we trust the system that much? Because perhaps you feel that, I think I'm talking to my loved one here, my dear friend, or actually it's an AI that just.
How do I know right now that you're not talking to a robot and I'm not talking to a robot? We don't know, right?
No.
I could actually be a robot and have a
I think many people are scared about. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, I think that is something that many people think about. That is what the trust is about on a personal level. What do you think? What do you say to those people?
So at one point in time, none of this is original thought. We've seen this with everything. Somebody invented a car and then someone made a better car. Somebody made AOL.com and Yahoo for search, and now it's Google. Somebody made OpenAI, and then China does DeepSeek. But then Elon Musk does Grok. There's 3 big AIs that are free out there right now, right? So there's always, you did it first. Now someone leapfrogged and did it again, and someone did this. If I don't like OpenAI, maybe I go use Grok. If I don't like Grok, maybe I go make a new and different one. Ultimately, people aren't on MySpace anymore. They went to Facebook, and then people got done with Facebook and they went to Instagram. There's going to be something new next year or the following year, right?
Yeah.
So I think with AI, if we don't like what's going on with it, it's real easy. You turn off the app. It's real easy. You don't use it. And if you don't use it, they can't get information from you and they don't have you. So if you choose to not engage with what you know is wrong or goofy or just don't like, turn it off.
Yeah, that's a good advice. And then you think, we have to get experience. How do we adapt to that and be part of it? Because do we harmonize ourselves, or do we get into it? Do we to have some kind of calm in it, because we have to be part of it? It's there. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of human resilience in that case?
So I would say that I'm 47. So I went to high school when there was no internet, and or beginning of internet. You can do a
Yeah.
library book. I went to college and I graduated college in 2000.
First of all, in the category of
How do you
First of all, in the category of 25 essential character traits, respect is number one. And there are 5 core traits, and they are respect, resilience, responsibility, kindness, and love. If you meet somebody who's got at least those 5 things, they're a pretty decent person. So you have to look for those. But the problem is, who's giving respect these days? I'm preparing a TED Talk right now, and the very first question that I have for the audience is this. So let me ask you just to think for a moment of all the people that you encounter. First of all, in the category of 25 essential character traits, respect is number one. And there are 5 core traits, and they are respect, resilience, responsibility, kindness, and love. If you meet somebody who's got at least those 5 things, they're a pretty decent person. So you have to look for those. But the problem is, who's giving respect these days? I'm preparing a TED Talk right now, and the very first question that I have for the audience is this. So let me ask you just to think for a moment of all the people that you encounter. First of all, in the category of 25 essential character traits, respect is
in order for the best results that I've seen is somewhere around the 90-day mark. If they're committed and they're doing all of the exercises. And the reason why 90 days is science says it takes 60 to 254 days to create a habit in the brain. And a habit is a new network of brain cells that have grown and strengthened to make that habit automatic. And so some people, quite honestly, do take longer, closer to, 120 days or 150 days. But it's putting all of the tools together bit by bit, piece by piece, with the knowledge. When you have the knowledge, you also have to build the experience and the skills. And when you combine the two, skills and knowledge together, then suddenly you're on the right track. And it's also about eliminating bad thinking patterns, bad behaviors, and bad habits as well.
Yeah.
It's equally as important, which most people overlook. So in order for the best results that I've seen is somewhere around the 90-day mark. If they're committed and they're doing all of the exercises. And the reason why 90 days is science says it takes 60 to 254 days to create a habit in the brain. And a habit is a new network of brain cells that have grown and strengthened to make that habit automatic. And so some people, quite honestly, do take longer, closer to, 120 days or 150 days. But it's putting all of the tools together bit by bit, piece by piece, with the knowledge. When you have the knowledge, you also have to build the experience and the skills. And when you combine the two, skills and knowledge together, then suddenly you're on the right track. And it's also about eliminating bad thinking patterns, bad behaviors, and bad habits as well.
Yeah.
It's equally as important, which most people overlook.
So, welcome to Stress and Purpose in Life podcast. This podcast is here for you listeners who want to get inspired by others and also to help to transform your life to creating a life free of stress and more purpose. What happens if your voice is taken from you and the pain is like, yeah, you don't know what to do about it. You can't speak anymore. Well, today's episode is just about that also. Welcome back to Stress and Purpose in Life podcast. I'm your host, Stina, and today we're going to dive into a crucial and very important conversation as the intersection of technology and human development and sustainability. As biodiversity, also AI, and the digitalization is something that is rapidly shaping our world right now, right? And we need to ensure that we also grow in the same direction. So to do that, we're going to explore an amazing inner development goals. I'm here joined by this brilliant Jacob Trollbeck, who is the visionary designer and communicator and the mindset behind the visual language of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and also now the inner development goals. So I'm so grateful to have you here on the show, Jacob. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here.
So you're literally the mind behind the UN SDGs and the Agenda 2030s language.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. It's funny because someone asked me a question about the origin of the goal 5 gender equality icon the other day, and I had to dive down because it's actually now 10 years since we did this. But yeah, we were very fortunate to be in a position where we got a request if we could help to take this it's sort of boring and academic framework and make it into something that everyone could understand and get engaged behind. So yeah.
And now all people all around the globe knows this Agenda 2030 and those goals, right? It's something that is really understood by many now, and it's amazing to talk to you, and you're the creator of this. So amazing to have you on the show, really.
Thank you. I always have to mention my partner, Christina Rigg-Dressley, who did a huge majority of all the design behind it, and it's very much her visual vision that's behind it. So it was not only me. We were we were 2 people working on it. So
yeah, of course. Then anyway, it was you as half of the people in the show on this. So very, very nice to have you here. Can you start? Is there something that you want to start by introducing yourself more about for the audience? Because we know you for the sustainable development goals, right? But you have a very interesting background, I think. Also, can you explain how you came to become the person that you are, right? Based on this emphasis on sustainability.
Yeah, I'm from Sweden. I was very briefly, I can say that I had a record store and I was a DJ in Stockholm, and then we started a club, and I was starting to do flyers, invitations for the club, and decided that I wanted to be a designer and moved to New York and got a job at a company working with motion graphics, meaning we did a lot of film titles, we did graphics for TV commercials and things like that. And when I started my own company in 99, I was getting a little bit tired of all the noise in marketing and advertising in America. I guess in the world, but in America in particular. So I came up with this motto, which was discard everything that means nothing.
Welcome back to Stress and Purpose in Life podcast. I'm your host, Stina, and today we're going to dive into a crucial and very important conversation as the intersection of technology and human development and sustainability. As biodiversity, also AI, and digitalization is something that is rapidly shaping our world right now, right? And we need to ensure that we also grow in the same direction. So to do that, we're going to explore an amazing inner development goals. I'm here joined by this brilliant Jacob Trollbeck, who is the visionary designer and communicator and the mindset behind the visual language of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and also now the inner development goals. So I'm so grateful to have you here on the show, Jacob. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here.
So you're literally the mind behind the UN SDGs and the Agenda 2030s language.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. It's funny because someone asked me a question about the origin of the goal 5 gender equality icon the other day, and I had to dive down because it's actually now 10 years since we did this. But yeah, we were very fortunate to be in a position where we got a request if we could help to take this it's sort of boring and academic framework and make it into something that everyone could understand and get engaged behind. So yeah.
And now all people all around the globe knows this Agenda 2030 and those goals, right? It's something that is really understood by many now, and it's amazing to talk to you, and you're the creator of this. So amazing to have you on the show, really.
Thank you. I always have to mention my partner, Christina Rigg-Dressley, who did a huge majority of all the design behind it, and it's very much her visual vision that's behind it. So it was not only me. We were we were 2 people working on it. So
yeah, of course. Then anyway, it was you as half of the people in the show on this. So very, very nice to have you here. Can you start? Is there something that you want to start by introducing yourself more about for the audience? Because we know you for the Sustainable Development Goals, right? But you have a very interesting background, I think. Also, can you explain how you came to become the person that you are, right? Based on this emphasis on sustainability.
Yeah, I'm from Sweden. I was very briefly, I can say that I had a record store and I was a DJ in Stockholm, and then we started a club, and I was starting to do flyers, invitations for the club, and decided that I wanted to be a designer and moved to New York and got a job at a company working with motion graphics, meaning we did a lot of film titles, we did graphics for TV commercials and things like that. And when I started my own company in 99, I was getting a little bit tired of all the noise in marketing and advertising in America. I guess in the world, but in America in particular. So I came up with this motto, which was discard everything that means nothing, and that became sort of the beginning of a journey to find the true meaning behind things. And with that philosophy behind our design, we became quickly very good at doing branding for a variety of clients, and we worked with a lot of clients, mostly all of the American TV networks like HBO and CBS and things like that. And then we did a job for the BBC, a pretty big job. And that led to a connection that just by happenstance, a man, Richard Curtis, came to my office and he wanted help with the project. And we hit it off very well. And then he said at the end of the meeting, if you're interested, I have a crazy idea, which is the UN are going to release these goals in a year. And I think they're going to fail if we can't make them popular in some way. And do you want to help with that?
Oh,
So that was like a fast forward through how I came to work with sustainability. And I think that also at that point in my life, we had worked with almost every client that I wanted. We had worked with Apple, which was a huge thing for me because I feel like my whole creative career I owe to the Macintosh, which was sort of my tool when I learned to design, and also that I was later when I started to write. So and I felt that I had sort of reached the top of, there were no more clients that I felt I wanted to, like I wasn't hungry for that, but to work with communication and make people find some kind of sense in very complex situations and find what's meaningful and what matters. That became the driving force and for me. So I worked with that for a while, and then because I realized I had to work with companies because the NGOs that contacted me, they didn't have any money, and I had to pay salaries. So I decided that I had to work with companies, and that Stockholm was a better place for that than America. So that's when I started the new division, and so that agency is now, I think, 8 years old, and we are only working with different variations of social and environmental sustainability.
yeah. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm interested, before we start with that, we talked a lot about biodiversity and the changing environment that we live in, right? And how do you think we can connect to that with, how do we develop that with creating this sustainable mindset that we need? I mean, for those people that are not familiar with this inner development goals, can you briefly explain what it is and how it is connected to this changing environment that we live in today?
Yeah, I think that there's actually three different. We've been, after we had worked with the global goals, the SDGs, for a few years, and we thought that they were so clear and obvious, and we were just sitting back and waiting for change to happen, and it seemed like nothing happened really. So we started to think about what drives change, and it took all too long, I think, to understand a very simple fact that it's like, who's driving this car, and like that it all comes down to us. And we met with some great people. Eric Fernholm was the first connection, and we started to talk to him about our inner skills, how they are driving things forward, and what we need, because it's like I think that there's a fundamental misunderstanding about Well, for a long time, it's been like, well, you're supposed to do what society says, and you're supposed to behave that way, and it doesn't matter what's happening on the inside. And if you disagree, there's probably something that's wrong with you. And instead, open up the way that we relate to ourselves and our thoughts. And I mean, if you would create a machine of some kind, you would really be interested in knowing exactly how it works. And of course, it's enormously interesting to think about our behavior and what's driving that. So we decided that we would use the connection of sort of driving forces, and we did a survey that in the end, I think about 2,000 people answered, and it was people who worked with leadership, with personal development, people working with mental health. There were like all kinds of people who answered a very simple question, which was, what skills, capacities, and qualities do we need as individuals and as a group to be able to reach the SDGs?
Yeah.
So that was the foundation for that. And then I think later when we started to work with it, we realized that it wasn't actually limited to like being driving forces for the SDGs. It was really what's running our lives.
Yeah, we have to change that mindset also to follow the sustainable development goals, right? So, and I understood that this IDGs emphasize a lot of self-awareness and compassion and collaboration, right? It has to do with those, it's like 5 principles of being, thinking, collaborating, and acting, right? So, and that is something holistic and it's something that we all have to do, think about, depending on, it doesn't have to do just to do with the sustainability mindset. It has to do with the way of life, but the way of life changes now rapidly based on this environment, the focus on sustainable development goals, right? So how do you see that help us to navigate in helping us to really create a better world and to change this way of living that we do?
I mean, I think there's so many interesting aspects, and I'm sure we're going to talk about biodiversity in a little bit, because that's the sort of the missing piece of the puzzle. But I think that one thing that I've been thinking about lately is, I remember many years ago when I learned about medicines, that all medicines that work only works because there's a receptor for them in the human body. So it's medicines are really a way. It's not a way to introduce something new to the body. It's a way to enhance the body's function, to enhance the way that these cells work, or these. So it's a system that we're part of, and we're using, the tools that we have in ourselves. And I think that when it comes to inner development, it's like we're walking around with all of these different capacities. And none of us are saying that the IDGs are complete or covering every aspect of it, because it is a framework under development. But all of a sudden, if you start to look at these different skills or capacities or qualities, you can see well, first of all, if you look at them, and there are 23, 24 of them now. There's actually 23. I'm saying 24 because there's definitely a new one coming in. But if you're looking at them at the list, I think you would be hard pressed to find a person who's not like, yep, that's great, I want all of those. So they're very they're very positive skills. And the thing is that we just need to practice them, right? You need to practice everything. You need to practice to have humility. You need to practice trust. You need to practice critical thinking. You need to practice, especially some people need to practice to have an open mindset. You can just tick off these skills and realize that this is something that we all have to work on. And if we don't do that, we're not going to be our best selves. We're just going to have all of these capacities that we're not gonna use, and that would be, it would be like I don't know. I feel like I want to make some parallel with when you realize that you you rented a house in the mountains for a week, and then when you got back, someone said, "How did you like the sauna?" And you like, it had a sauna. It's like there's so much in life, and there's so much within us that I think it would be cool if we would just be a little bit open to explore all of these different pathways that we can take, and all the ways that we can use them to like take charge over our relationships, and think about, like, what is it that happened when you get angry, or when someone pushes a button, or when someone makes you feel small, or when someone makes you feel great. What's actually happening there? And so I love it. I just love the inner development goals. I think that they're just a fantastic tool, and they have helped me so much.
Yeah, I think it's something that we humans really need now. I've also digged into it a little bit, and it's really amazing because it has a lot to do with the inner development that shape also the external environment, right? So, and if you truly master these skills, how do you think that will influence our way of living more sustainable, both in business and in private life?
I mean, obviously it would be great, but I also don't think that you can master them. I think that there are things that you can get better at. I think you can look at them and set up, an aspiration to become better at. If you look at them, you can clearly see very quickly what you don't have issues with. There may be skills that you feel like, yeah, I'm really good at complexity awareness, or I'm really good at having an open mind or something, but I'm not that good at trusting people. So I think that it can help us to think about what we could probably be better at. So
it's a good reminder to continue improvement, right? Because I have an idea about that as well, because I did a pillar theory, which was also 8 kind of pillars of inner development, and it also quite resonates with this, because you're not good at everything. It's like a life compass. You can give us a grade to, okay, today I'm a 5 but tomorrow I could be a 4, and it's really it's a continuous improvement, and it's really good to have some kind of framework for that also resonate with the living sustainable life. So I admire that, and I think it's so important both in private life and in business that people use this. And I understood that the people are already, you have some kind of method for this, that you have it implemented also in businesses or in your own business. You said something about that earlier, that you have some kind of way of working with it yourself.
Well,
share.
In the beginning, before I knew all of the skills by heart, I always had them open in a document, and whenever I was in a situation that wasn't familiar with me, or if I had to write a difficult email to a client or something, I wrote the email and then I looked at it and I was like, okay, do I have the right amount of humility here? Do I show appreciation? Do I like, how can I frame this in a way? And it's not framing things in a way that, oh, I will get things my way. It's framing things so the message goes through. And I think that we all, well, most of us have, also in relationships with family and friends, we have people that we can't really get through to. And it's really good to see that, okay, what would happen if you know, if I showed more empathy, if I had more compassion, or how can I build presence in this situation, like whatever it is that's missing. And I think that I know that we're probably getting off topic a little bit here, but I feel like most conflicts between people, I mean, there are conflicts between people that can go on for a lifetime. And there are people, they can be family members that try and they always have the same result, but they always try in the same way. And it's like, you know, that you're pushing each other's buttons. And then you just have to ask yourself, what would it be like if you think that another person did you wrong, to just say, okay, I'm going to just take a deep breath and start to thinking about what caused this situation, what made this person behave that way. So it's a map of just understanding why we react the way we do, anyway, I love it.
Yeah. But how about that relation with the inner development goals, and we go to talk about biodiversity now. How do you see the relationship between those two?
Yeah, that has been
influence each other.
Yeah, that has been a huge journey for me, because when we did the SDGs, obviously goal 14 and 15 are about biodiversity, life below water and life on land. So I knew that biodiversity was important, but also I'm a city person. I lived in New York for 30 years, and yeah, we went out to the beach in the summers, but when I grew up in Sweden, I lived in a suburb, and you were never really that close to nature, and you were never really dependent on nature. So for me, it had been a little bit like, yeah, I guess it's good that we have it, right? And then about 2 years ago, when we started to work with the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, because it was just released, and I looked at it and I said, oh man, this needs a makeover. So I wrote some emails and made some phone calls and got in touch with the right people. And we had a meeting, and I said, well, the SDGs were pretty successful. Can we do something similar with the biodiversity framework? And they were very happy, and we started to work on that. And that has been a huge journey for me, because it's like the more you're working on it, you're making the most important observation is that we are biodiversity. And you know, it's incredible that we have distanced ourselves so much from biodiversity. So it seems like we've forgotten that this planet, this nature, it's our birthplace. It's our you know, our mother, our fathers. It's like it's all in biodiversity. And indigenous peoples and local communities, they have a much tighter connection, and they understand where we're from. And it's, when you're just are plopped down at a hospital in a city and you grow up in a city, you're not necessarily going to get that connection, and it's not going to be an obvious part of your life that we're not, first, that you are biodiversity. And the second thing is that we're not the masters of this. We're just the latest, the latest child of biodiversity. And we may be amazing, and I think human beings are just completely incredible, but we also have a responsibility, because nature isn't there for us. It's we're part of it, and nature, human beings have things that they do in ecosystems that are beneficial for ecosystems. But if we disappeared, everything would go on as usual, mostly,
Yeah.
or better in this, today.
Yeah.
So the humility that comes with realizing that, oh, these are not our plans, and I think that also a lot came when I started to read Robin Wall Kimmerer. She has a fantastic, beautiful book called Braiding Sweetgrass. And she's talking a lot about how we have objectified nature. But nature is something that's alive, it's not objects. And we have on our little biodiversity plan book that we've done,
Yeah.
there's a short quote from her that I would love to read.
Yeah,
Which,
absolutely. Please do.
as human beings, we are part of the web of life, not its masters. Our role is to care for the diversity of life forms on Earth, to be in relationships with them, and to recognize their value beyond our use.
That's beautiful.
And
That's
there's so much
important.
love in it, right?
The respect to the nature.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
important. Yeah. Wonderful.
So that
how do you
then,
yeah, sorry,
that then
go on.
connect directly to the being category, or the being dimension of the inner development goals, because we're talking about an inner compass. We're talking about
Yeah.
integrity, authenticity. We're talking about openness, learning mindset, which is, nature has always been, biodiversity has always been a laboratorium for experiments and trying like a creative laboratory.
Yeah.
All evolution is just built on, like, let's try this. Well, that didn't work. Let's try this. Like, it's also creative, and our being dimension is, of course, the fact that we're part of this.
Yeah.
And so that has been, I think, a lot about this, and I think that there's more and more awareness. There are the people who, the movement of touching grass, like, make sure that you can touch grass every day. And I think it's
wonderful.
just about finding environment where we feel good.
Yeah. And how do you see both, if we go on to talking about, I'm not going to dig deep into this, but just we are standing against paradigm shift, right? And this has to also do with AI and all the disconnected to nature, things that we get disconnected by, right? And how do you see then that these inner development goals can help us in that ever-changing environment that has to do with digitalization, and also it is vice versa from biodiversity, because that's something to do with nature, and AI and digitalization keeps us somewhat away from that. How do you see the inner development goals having an impact there?
Yeah, I think that, the most interesting thing with AI is we sort of know what it is, but we don't know what's going to happen.
No.
And I think that there are many parts of, because I started my life as a tech nerd, so I love all of these, all of the evolution in technology. I think that I think we need to, in some way, think about what is AI and what is us. Because when you're talking about digitization, I mean, I think that we can say in general that that's a good thing. But at the same time, if the most prominent way that we're using digital media is doom scrolling and being depressed and not getting out of bed, then you have two different sides of it. And I mean, I use AI every day. I use it when I write, when I do research, and to me, it's a gift. It's just amazing what it can do. And then I'm thinking that, okay, there are now you can just tell AI, I want a website, and they make a website. You can say, I want a hit song, and they make a hit song. And that's when I'm starting to think like, okay, what is the purpose of human beings in this?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, fortunately, AI is not very good at knowing what's good. When we worked on the biodiversity framework, we had to make 23 symbols, and there were one symbol that we were so stuck on, and I was like, okay, I'm going to see what AI can do. And I think I was sitting and prompting that AI for about 2-3 hours, and everything that came out was banal, ugly, and didn't have any inspiration. It hadn't made any of the connections that make good design, good symbols wonderful, right? Because it's always about making a leap, and coming up with an angle that excites people. And that, I mean, maybe AI is going to become good at, I mean, it's clearly going to become better at knowing what's good. But then the question is like, I don't know. I feel like there's so many dimensions of AI that, the most positive interpretation I could think about is that when I'm looking at the work that we've done with the SDGs, with the Inner Development Goals, and with biodiversity, the amazing thing is that now finally I'm starting to, I have a certain amount of OCD, and I'm starting to feel like, oh, I can see they fit together. This is a puzzle. We're putting the pieces in the right place. And what it is more than anything is an equation where you're going for the most elegant solutions. That's what biodiversity has done for 3.5 billion years. And, when humans get really into something, we create really elegant solutions, elegant and beautiful solutions. It may be design, or it may be equations, or it may be machines, or whatever it is. And we bumble around a little bit, but, there's one point where, this may be a bad example, but it's not exciting to buy a new iPhone anymore because it's good. It's like, for the period of time that we're living, like, but going from an iPhone 15 to 16, that's like, okay, whatever, because they've just refined this product, so it's a miracle. And then what do? I mean, there's going to be new technology, and so I'm not saying that evolution stops there, but there are these plateaus of just elegance. So getting back to AI, I think that AI should also have the ability to see the mathematics about it, to see, well, this doesn't work because I have access to all of these sources, all of this information. And the result of this is that if you do it this way, it's a solid no because you blow up the planet or whatever it is. And I think that also that's why, all of these hopeless, white men, Elon Musk and, Mark Zuckerberg and all of these pathetic, anyway, that
We don't go into
they,
politics, but I understand what you're
I'm
coming
not
from.
talking about their politics. I'm just
No.
talking about the intelligence of not seeing things, because it is mathematics. And the thing is that when they're like all of a sudden, oh, AI has become woke, it's not woke. It's just saying that if you do this thing, there will be a problem. They're saying if we keep burning fossil fuel, the planet is going to be not so much fun to live at.
No.
And that's not a political point of view. And that's not being woke. That's not being anything other than you're being scientific. You're looking at the science and then you're seeing what that goes to.
Yeah.
So I think that AI can help us in this, because the wonder of AI is also what is a little bit scary with AI, is that we don't know how it does it. We just told AI, go and learn this, go and figure this out, like you do with children. You can figure it out. And it did. And no one can go in and, like, I mean, people can change the prompts and change the parameters, but no one can go in and say, no, because it's what's happening in this black box of AI. And to me, that is where I'm putting my hope to, that it actually are going to find solutions that make sense mathematically. And biodiversity is nothing but the planet's oldest equation. So I want to marry them in some way, and then hope that they're not getting abused by, people who wants to make money.
No, and I see that that resonates so with the importance of the inner development goals, because if you develop yourself as a human being and you become more, good for the planet, of course, the AI and the biodiversity, it gets a positive development because of it. But if you don't have that inner development goals to lean on, then you perhaps get lost in that world, because it's a rapid technology, it's a rapid development, and you have to be grounded, right? So what is the correlation there, do you think? How do you think this inner development goals will impact this development?
Yeah, I think that the awareness of the inner development goals, I mean, it's big. I mean, we have 700 hubs in countries all over the world, and we have, I mean, so many tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people but I don't think that it has had enough impact in media and society for it to be something that becomes part of the zeitgeist of AI. It's like, but it is part of the zeitgeist in society, I think, because I mean, we were talking about the world today a while ago, and I said, listen, I mean, I was a DJ. I've been at clubs and parties like all my life. And I know you get a terrible hungover after it. And I was thinking that, I mean, Earth, a very cool place, but if you look at the universe, we're like less than nothing. Our, it's just, no one would care. So I was just thinking, so what if we destroy this planet? What if we like ruin biodiversity and make it so obviously we're not going to have anything to eat, and then we causing climate change, so it's going to be miserable to live anywhere. And I was like, well, good, then maybe, and then I realized, but at a party you're having a good time, right? And right now we're ruining the climate and we're destroying biodiversity and everyone's miserable. So this is, of course, the big allure of the inner development goals, because something's got to happen.
Yeah. Somebody told me, they said like a stressed planet is a stressed human. We are stressed out by the situation, and we have to do something about that. I will, if we look at the future and the bigger picture now, you're talking about the universe as a bigger picture, but if we imagine like a world where AI and biodiversity and inner development goals are fully aligned, and it's like harmony, how would that look? What would the world look like if it was aligned with each other, do you think?
I mean,
I
think it would be a wonderful world. I think that there are some forces in humankind that, I mean, we have these forces of that comes from our ancestry, our survival instincts, that are causing us significant problems today. Because if you have, I'm just thinking about United States and China. I'm like, okay, you share the same problems. Why don't you sit down and figure out how to solve this? Figure out how trade is going to work. Figure out how this is going to be beneficial for everyone. But instead, they're fighting with each other.
Yeah.
And they're fighting, and I understand that you will fight for survival when there's scarcity, but there's such abundance, and that we can't stop fighting when there's abundance. Obviously, there's not abundance in the whole world, but if we're talking about these, if we talk about the global north, or like, and that to me is just a tragedy, that we're gonna that we have societies, we have production methods, we have so much technology, so we basically could have a good time. We wouldn't have to worry about housing and food and things like that. But instead, we're just because there's always people, and mostly men, who just wants it all. They just want to win, and it's like, you just win, you just won. Your ancestors didn't survive. They died when they were 18 or 23, or like, you're 65. You've survived. Why don't you enjoy this? Why do you have to keep on pretending like you have to win over what? Win over the planet now. So I think that however well you would align these frameworks, there's got to be an interchange, and in that interchange, we need to look at the world and ask ourselves, what created the beauty? What created the love? And we're talking about the limbic system and the frontal cortex, that created music, that created art, that created love, that created so much. And we have this little engine of survival that is just, I want more, 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 more. I'm worried about my survival. Well, you don't have to worry about your survival. So I think that until we come to terms with this split operational directives, which is, we've everything that we have created, that mankind have created, we've created because we work together and we build trust and we have empathy and love. That's like the source for the civilization. That's why we can live good lives. And then we have this destructive force that wants to build nuclear weapons. It's like, and that is just a part of, I don't know, maybe Ozempic is gonna take care of that. I hope so, because it seems like it's like dampening a lot of our primitive needs and wants. But that's another story.
Yeah, but I agree totally with you, because that's the bigger picture, and the love that you're talking about is lost somewhere when you're in the decision-making post. I think it has to do some kind of mind shift there in around humanity and also business leaders. Do you have some kind of advice? I mean, you're talking now about love and how you can stay connected to nature and also use these inner development goals in an ever-changing environment, and not get scared and flee for lions, right? As we did before. But what do you think about, what are your do you have some advice that you can give some of the leaders in the world that is based on inner development goals, and how they can apply them and to make us more better people, more positive and more loving people?
I mean, when the framework started to take shape, I said, oh, this should be like the entry test for all world leaders, all politicians. We should just elect people who have all of these skills, who have long-term thinking, who have complexity awareness, who have humility and empathy, and have co-creation skills, have inclusive mindsets, intercultural competences. It's like the list is just like, how good it would be.
Oh my God, the world would be a very loving place to live on then.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not gonna happen. The problem is that the sad reality is that the people who are only interested in power are the ones that gets power. And we can talk about different peace movements and the Dalai Lama and Gandhi and very strong movements, but Martin Luther King, well, we can shoot him. I mean, that's there's we're playing in a game and against forces that I don't really know. But I can say that one thing that I saw a preview of a documentary that's called Confessions of a Swedish Man. And it's about a man who is confronting this whole male sort of testosterone driving anti-feminist movement. And the thing that I think that was the most interesting thing was that in the interview after the screening, he said that, because the question was, so you're sitting there and you're opening up to people who are extreme right, who are, who doesn't trust women, who are, very very negative forces and very like masculine, and he himself is, his movie before this was about feminism, so so
Oh,
he's like he's clearly not like on that side. And
no.
what he said was that he found that when they sat down in these circles and opened up, when they all started to talk about their childhood, that's when they connected. And I think that we all have not the same trauma, but we all have most of us have experienced similar trauma in our lives, in growing up, and that has shaped us in different ways. And our reactions to these stressful, traumatic situations can be vastly different depending on who we are, our personality, but I think even more about the circumstances that we grew up in. If we grew up in a loving, supporting family, or in a family where your father was beating the shit out of your mother for dinner every day. I mean, it's like, but the trauma of just being a human being. I mean, we all have traumas, and if we can connect with that side, if we can just dare to be naked there and say, I don't know, I'm lost. Do you have an idea how I can get out of this? If we start doing that, I think that that's the best way to like promote real solutions and remove the sledgehammer from the from the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, we get tougher the older we get. It's a tough environment to live in, and then being vulnerable is very important. I agree with you, and I can imagine if you see the person from behind the mask, the roles that you have, then you get to the core, and then you get open. Then you open yourself to being more loving. I think, and I agree totally with that.
Yeah.
Is there something more that you would like to find in words for the viewers to reflect on regarding this? With so much important wisdom that we have regarding this subject, that we can talk for hours. And is there something more that you would like to add? That we haven't.
Yeah, probably, but I can't really figure out what I can just say that for me, I've found a lot of comfort in understanding how understanding the universe and the physical world, and I was always annoyed when I lived in America when someone said everything happens for a reason. And it could be a horrible thing that had happened. Someone had been left, or maybe even when someone died, some would say like, well, everything happens for a reason, which is, when we're back in the old time of believing that there's a God that controls everything that happens here. And I was so upset by this in some situation. And then I realized I could just move the words around a little bit. It's not that everything happens for a reason. There's a reason why everything happens. And if you start looking for the reason why everything happens, then your life becomes so interesting. And if you can dare to turn that onto yourself also, and you can be in a conversation and all of a sudden you get really irritated or frustrated, or maybe even raising your voice or whatever. And then afterwards to sit down and think, what happened there? Why was what triggered me? I mean, it's so, the curiosity that you can have around your own behaviors, I think is just immense. And I kind of learned that from a friend I had in America many years ago. She said something, and I or did something. I don't remember. I think she said something, and I told her I was pretty harsh on her. I was like, you can't say that. And you can't like, and I thought that she would defend herself. And she said, oh, that's interesting that you think that. And I was just like, I wasn't expecting that response. And she said, yeah, I'm interested in knowing what's happening in my head and what's happening in your head. Why did this situation come up? And I was like, that is kick-ass. That So look for just be curious. And then I just realized that I do actually have one last thing that I want to say.
Yeah, please do. This was a great reminder for people what you just said about having your self-reflection.
Yeah.
Okay, go on, please.
Yeah. So my last thing I would say is that I think that sometimes Einstein has been quoted as the one saying that all decisions we make in life depends just on one question. It's not completely verified if he said it, but it's anyway. And the only question is if we believe that we live in a friendly or an unfriendly universe. And if you're living in a friendly universe, then you build schools, and if you live in an unfriendly universe, you build prisons. If you're in a friendly universe, you build hospitals, you build parks. In an unfriendly universe, you build military, and and I think that that's a very cool thing to think about, very important thing to think about. But then I've had two thoughts of it. And the first thought was, of course, we live in a friendly universe because biodiversity is a gift to us. It's, it's just out there creating positive values all the time, all the food, all the material, all the beautiful sunsets, of course, this is a good world. So that was the first, like, okay, I think I've solved that equation. And then my last insight, and I think that this is where I'm going with this, is that it's actually not right that it's predetermined if the universe is friendly or unfriendly. The truth about the universe is that it becomes what we think it is. So if you think the universe is friendly, what do? You trust people. You have conversations. You're starting to build connections. You're saying, of course you can borrow this. Or can you keep an eye on my bag while I'm going a block away? Or it doesn't matter what it is. And building trust should be, the most important thing that we can.
So in order for the best results that I've seen is somewhere around the 90-day mark. If they're committed and they're doing all of the exercises. And the reason why 90 days is science says it takes 60 to 254 days to create a habit in the brain. And a habit is a new network of brain cells that have grown and strengthened to make that habit automatic. And so some people, quite honestly, do take longer, closer to, 120 days or 150 days. But it's putting all of the tools together bit by bit, piece by piece, with the knowledge. When you have the knowledge, you also have to build the experience and the skills. And when you combine the two, skills and knowledge together, then suddenly you're on the right track. And it's also about eliminating bad thinking patterns, bad behaviors, and bad habits as well. It's equally as important, which most people overlook.
welcome to Stress and Purpose in Life podcast. This podcast is here for you listeners who want to get inspired by others and also to help to transform your life to creating a life free of stress and more purpose. What happens if your voice is taken from you and the pain is like, yeah, you don't know what to do about it. You can't speak anymore. Well, today's episode is just about that also. This episode is one of resilience, courage, and incredible power of finding your inner voice, and even in the darkest moments. And I'm honored to welcome Sarah Johnson, a woman who has a journey from suicide, paralysis, and deep healing, and has led her to a place of profound strength and purpose. And she knows firsthand how it's like to be trapped in silence, right? And today she's here to share how she fought back her way and also how she reclaimed her voice and speak up for herself. So Sarah's story is really powerful and moving. So let's hear it from you. And welcome, Sarah, to this show. How are you today?
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Well, great. So can you tell us about your journey a little bit and what brought you to the place where your voice felt silent? What was that? What was happening to you at that time and place?
Well, I think kind of over the course of my life, I had many encounters of being told to be seen and not heard, and kind of silencing my opinion and just finding myself in different situations or career aspects or environments that I couldn't really share my opinion. I didn't feel comfortable really being myself. And when you become a mother, that can definitely amplify. You're trying to figure out how to be a mom and, listen to the advice of others, but then you're just not sure if that really fits for you. And I had gotten to a place of silencing myself for too long, and I was feeling trapped and dealing with postpartum depression. And I didn't really understand boundaries and learning how to set those that are healthy for ourselves and our families. And as you had mentioned, I had dealt with a scenario where I was feeling suicidal, and I was able to save myself and seek help. And unfortunately, that led to antidepressant medications, which are not designed for people to just get off. It's not a tool to use for a small amount of time. It's just to be continually the dose improved to improve your mood. And I was unaware of that. And I was also unaware that when you decide to get off of that, there's a protocol for that. And I was unaware of that as well. And I didn't want to go about life feeling numb to my life and the experiences I was having. And in 2020, I contracted long COVID. I had a whole host of symptoms that came onto my body, including neuropathy, a tremor. Migraines. I was working with a neurologist, and I was being tested for brain tumors and MS and Parkinson's disease. And in January of 2021, I had a medical emergency where I collapsed. And it started to appear as a stroke where I lost all sensation and motor function on the right side of my body. And on the way to the hospital, I lost all sensation on the left side of my body, which is very unusual. And during this experience, I was fully alert and awake in my brain. I could talk and think as fast as I'm talking to you now, but I didn't have the motor skills to actually speak for myself. And that's when I realized I was sort of trapped inside my body and I couldn't use my voice to advocate for myself.
And what were your thoughts and feelings in that moment? It must have been really scary.
It was terrifying.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's terrifying to have thoughts and feelings and opinions about what should happen next in a scenario like that, and being completely unable to communicate that. You can hear everything, I could see everything, I could blink and I could breathe, but I was unable to do anything else.
Oh. And what was that? For how long was this in your? Was it during this emergency when you couldn't do that? Was it during a long period, or was it just a few hours, or was it for a moment? Or how long did you have this paralysis, and how did you get out of it?
Yeah, so the course of the entire experience was about 24 hours total, but I had lost complete sensation for at least 18 hours. So it started
Oh.
early in the morning, around 7:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
and it lasted a good portion of the day while I was at the hospital, and then I was airlifted to a specialty hospital as well.
Okay. And that really came to be some kind of momentum for you when you reflected on the silence part of life, that what it takes for strength and also to be able to get your voice heard, right? So
Yeah.
why do you think people struggle with that, to speak up when they are going through a crisis? If you just talk about it generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, we're sort of conditioned to hold our tongue socially, not to speak our minds. It's sort of frowned upon, and I honestly think it's not so much the fact that we're speaking up, it's how it's done. And I think over time, people can become very aggressive or aren't approaching it in a way that's digestible for other people. Now, that's not to say people don't speak up for themselves. They absolutely do, and they absolutely should. But I think that there's a way to approach it with love. I think that that's really an important way to do it, is to show up in a space of loving yourself first and knowing that you're honoring yourself by using your voice and advocating for you, because you are, when it comes down to it, you are your best advocate. You know yourself best. You are with yourself every day. You hear your thoughts all day long. You are having an experience throughout the day with other people and in your environments. And other people can't see that or can't know that. And oftentimes we are having thoughts that we aren't sharing with others, that it feels violating to our core values. And I think if you can come from a place of love, it's going to be a lot easier to have discussions or share your experiences with other people, because it's really important to share your voice, what your inner voice is saying to you. And your inner voice needs to match your outer voice.
But what do you think, what are the dangers when you are staying silent? Because people perhaps don't have that safe place where you feel that you can be vulnerable to speak up, for example. What can be the dangers of staying silent in those moments, do you think?
There's a whole host of them. I think to start, you're telling yourself that you aren't as valuable as someone else. You're saying that what you have to say and what you believe is to be true is less important. What they have to say, what they're doing, how they want it to go is more important than you. And that there creates a disconnect between you and yourself and what you really want out of your life. And when you are silencing yourself over and over and over again, you're creating a bigger gap in that disconnect from you and the version of you that has to show up to be around those people. And whether this is a close relationship or at work or family, what becomes dangerous is that disconnect between you and your true self, where you can't really say what you want to say or really be who you really are and match that inner voice to the outer voice. You are building resentment. You are struggling to be forgiving and kind and showing up from a place of love and compassion, because you are more concerned about making other people happy than yourself. And over time, you're creating layers of that, of where your happiness is deprioritized, what you want out of life is deprioritized, and what they want is more important. And then you come to a place in your life, whether it's when the children leave the home and they're off living their own lives, or when a relationship splits up and you're like, well, who am I? Who am I supposed to be now? Because who I was for that person or for those kids, and you're not you. And so people can find themselves in crisis because they don't really know what their identity is. And that can be a difficult problem. I lived through that. I experienced it myself. And so it's been a really
think many
long road.
have. I mean, I also resonate with that a lot, because depending on where you come from, I mean, this is really important for young people also. if you are in a moment where you are like bullied at school, perhaps, or you're at work being bullied, or whatever situation you're in, and you're feeling unworthy, then you can get silenced by others. So this is a
Yes.
really important message to get out there, because there are many people that resonate with this, I think, in different relationships, because you have different roles in life, as you say, and you can be speaking up in some roles and other roles not, but you have to be authentic. And I think that's really something that is really interesting to hear you speak about this and have this as speciality, because this needs to be people need to learn this and get to know how to do it. So
Yes.
what would you say? What would you say to the listeners? What is the first step that they could take to, if they are in that situation, they don't feel balance in their authentic selves and the balance in their outer voice? What would you give for tips for them to get started on doing that, aligning them?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I honestly think it's getting to know your true self. Figure out who you are. Your identity is yours. And I think it's really easy to look outside of ourselves and let other people or movies or music or trends in fashion to tell us who we should be. And I think it's really important to really know who you are. And the way to start is just to start asking yourself questions. And it started with some of the silliest things for me. It was like, do I actually like this food? Or just because I've always eaten this food? Or do I actually like this music? Or is it because I just grew up listening to this music? So I really started at like the very basic things. And once you go through that process of questioning, it's just asking a lot of questions of yourself. Then you can start asking some of the deeper questions. Do I really hold that belief politically? Do I really believe in that in family? Is that how I want to live the rest of my life? And it's really just starting to ask yourself those questions. And the key piece here is listening to your voice. You need to pay attention and use your discernment of what's your voice and what's the voice that other people have given you, of what's expected of you, of what society does, what your partner expects. It's what is your voice versus the voice that other people have put in over the course of your life. Yeah. And once you kind of get really clear on that, it's going to be so easy to then have that reflected as your outer voice.
And that is, I think, this is so interesting subject. I love it, because this is, I mean, having those times to reflect on these things, life just goes on, and then you hear everything from the external environment that you just get in your subconscious that you're not even aware of. And then when you sit down like that, as you say, and then you write down, you're like, okay, do I really like this? You have to dig deep then, because they are so rooted in you. What is your thoughts and what is other people's thoughts? So I think it's really interesting. And of course, the first step is to start writing, right? Start asking the right questions for you to get the right answers then.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, some people aren't journalers. They aren't great at writing it down. So use voice notes and listen back to it, because sometimes you can be having a whole conversation with yourself and not actually hear it. But then if you're willing to sit and play it for that 10 seconds or 30 seconds or a few minutes that you've talked to yourself and you hear yourself say it, it's such a different experience because you're like, oh, I actually believe that, or that doesn't sound very sincere. But you have to, when you hear that, then you know what other people are hearing when you're talking. And so it really is evaluating and taking that time, but you have to make space for it, right? We have to set aside, time to really sit and do these things.
Yeah, so important.
And I know, well, and I don't want anyone else to have like an emergency where they can't use their voice. I want people to like make it a priority, because if you don't, then you're going to find yourself in a situation where it is an emergency, where you have to advocate for yourself. And I don't want you to have a freeze moment or a moment where you can't use your voice.
But I mean, people are in these different situations, and as you say, people can be depressed or stressed or being in an abusive relationship, or you have been like in some crisis. I mean, whatever crisis it could be. But what would you say to those people listening that they think, okay, my voice doesn't matter? What would you say to them? Because people are believing that. Some people are really believing that my voice doesn't matter. So
I thought the same thing. A few years ago when I was depressed and really down, I really didn't think I had any kind of worth. And I had to ask myself, why do I think that? Why do I think I have no worth? Because I'm not contributing, because I'm not playing the role everyone else told me to play. And it was asking my friend to tell me what she saw in me. And it was a mirror reflection. I just asked her to be honest with me. What are you seeing? And I had to be brave enough to listen to the answer, because I didn't want her to just tell me something to make me happy. And that's speaking to my ego. I wanted her to really just be honest with me and tell me what she saw, but then also tell me, like, well, what am I adding to your life? And there were things she said that I didn't even know I was doing. And I think that that's really important, is sometimes we are doing the simplest things and we don't think it's a big deal, but it actually is a very big deal to other people. And so if you're willing and brave enough to ask the people closest to you that love you and want what's best for you, they're going to be the best way to guide you on that path.
And that is really good, because feedback is something that is really something that we need to hear from others. Because if you don't believe it yourself and you hear other people say it, but you have to get it in yourself, okay, what the other people see in you, and then really value that. And then feedback is really good to have as a method. Is there any other strategies besides hearing your voice and also writing it down, what your values are? Or is there other systems also that you can use to because I think you have a program or something. What do you do with your clients that they get healed from this and really get their voice heard? So what are your strategies for them?
Yeah, so I actually encourage my clients to play a little, to try to remember the little kid inside and the big dreams that they had as a kid. And so we always start out with, like, well, what was it that you wanted to be as a kid that you didn't actually go and do? And then we just sort of keep that in the back of our minds as we're going through these conversations. And I have a great program that I put together to help people ask the right questions. And I sort of walk them through that process week by week, so that more and more can be revealed. It's sort of like unfolding the layers of it and really getting to the core of it. And it really doesn't take a lot of time, but they have a lot of breakthroughs. I've had incredible results with my clients because they've been able to tap into that playfulness aspect of it, of getting to know. It's sort of like when you get into a new relationship with someone, whether it's a friend or a romantic partner. It's kind of exciting because you're getting to know each other. You're hearing these stories and you're hearing who they really are. And it's sort of like that experience, but they're doing it for themselves and they're getting to know this version of them in their place in their life right now. And that's a really beautiful experience. It's like watching a flower kind of open up and bloom. And so by the end of the experience of working with me, they're these just strong, really empowered people because they feel like they know who they really are and what they want to do next.
Yeah, but that's something that we all want to have, right? Because people are just wandering off and they don't know where they are leaving. If they have a goal, they have to have a goal, but if they don't know themselves, then that goal is not worth anything. So, but where do you think if you look at the clients that comes to you, it's at what stage are they? I mean, are they seeking help? When is it important to seek help, do you think? Where are those people that come to you in their lives?
It is, yeah. I mean, a big part of people's healing journey can be done alone. But I think especially if you're starting out, or if you've done it for a while and you feel a little bit stuck and you're not really sure how to continue to move forward, and because you've tried a few things and they didn't work or they didn't last very long, I think it's really important to ask for help and find somebody that really feels like they connect to you and they understand you and where you're at. Because I've had a whole host of people in a variety. People have been on their spiritual journeys for a long time and it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. and we just kind of pick them up from there and we move them into a different space. But I've also had people who are just starting out and they're like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm like, great, let me give you little bits and pieces. And it's easy to get overwhelmed because you can take on too much to try to do too much. And that isn't sustainable. I mean, that works for a variety of things. If you take on too many skills at the same time, it can be overwhelming and you end up dropping it all because it's too much. But I think it's important to ask for help from the right people and people that feel to you that they understand you and that you really are seen and heard.
Important. And what do you think about the people that are listening now? I mean, what is the one message that you would give them if they are in a situation where they, in different relationships, depending on if it's with your spouse or if it's with your best friend? I mean, if you don't have that trust in yourself to speak out, what would the one message be to them to just start with the journey to try to do that? I mean, with your help and also on their own.
Yeah, I mean, start out on your own. If you don't feel like you have a safe space, if it's a partner or a friend or something, if you truly don't feel like you have someone to go to, a grandparent, a teacher, a mentor or something, start with yourself. Find something that you can start to ask those questions, either in a journal or in voice notes that you can refer back to. And then I would encourage you, because there's a lot of resources in nearly every community all over the planet. It doesn't really matter where you are. There are community events all of the time. And it's sort of like when you first go into a classroom and there's no one there, and then there's new kids and you're the new kid and it feels weird. And it's hard. It can be difficult to go into those situations. But just staying open is just my recommendation. When you stay open to receiving someone coming into your life to help you, it's remarkable the miracle that happens. The person that needs to find you finds you, and it's that perfect moment. And it's sort of that hero's journey. If you know about the hero's journey, it's this person that comes in. They're considered the gift, and it's either their wisdom or they have the resource that you need. Right? It's not necessarily needing to go to that event because they are the one person that's going to give you what you need. It could just be that what they say is what you needed, or maybe they have the website or the app or something. And so you needed to be at that event so you could get what you needed out of that experience. And so it's the gift part of the hero's journey, and it's being brave enough and open. And I think if you do that, you open yourself up to just try, it always shows up. I've never had an experience where it never showed up.
No, I agree also with that, taking steps. But I'm interested to just, before we wrap it up, I mean, we can have some more questions, of course, but I have one question more regarding your journey.
Okay.
You talk about the hero's journey, and of course, everybody has a hero's journey, right? But what does it mean for you today to speak up? How has that transformed your life?
It's been incredible. It transformed every relationship in my life because I finally felt like I could be myself. It wasn't easy. I'm not going to lie and say that it was a party and flowers and roses and balloons all of the time, because it really wasn't. Because I found that I was holding on to relationships that really weren't meant to stick around any longer. They had served their purpose, and it was time for them to move on. It was time for me to move on. And the more I got in aligned with my inner voice, I could just be myself effortlessly. It wasn't so hard. I didn't have to hide parts of myself. I didn't feel any shame. I didn't walk around, being really careful about what I say over here and using a different voice over there and with that person or this family. I wasn't having to keep up all of these different roles. I could just show up as me. I felt lighter. I felt more connected to myself. I felt happier. And I felt like I could find my purpose a lot easier because I could just be me and do what I do best without having to worry about anybody else but me. And the beautiful part is I gave the bravery to my friends to do the same thing. and we started learning new things about each other. We've been friends for 20 years. But then they finally felt brave enough because I was brave enough. And that vulnerability, when we started opening up like that, it just made our friendships so much better and our connection so much better. And I was gifted opportunities that I hadn't ever had in my life because I was myself. And that felt really good because it was like, oh, I do have value. I do have something to say. And it was because I was able to be myself that those opportunities showed up for me.
This episode will resonate with so many. Thank you so much for. Before we close up this beautiful conversation, Sarah, where can our listeners connect with you if they want to learn more about your incredible program and also your insight?
Yeah, so my program's called A Courageous Journey, and I would love to work with people and walk along their journey and help them find their voice, their inner voice and their outer voice. You can find me on my website at optimistadventurer.com. And then I'm also on YouTube, Intuitive Journey with Sarah, and on Instagram, Optimist Adventurer Shop. And that's a great way to connect with me and message me. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to send them my way.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for. Do you have something? Do you want to some final words to the listeners before we wrap it up here? Is there something more that you want to add to the beautiful conversation?
Yeah, I want to encourage people not to lose hope.
Okay, welcome to this episode of Stress and Purpose in Life. This podcast is here for you listeners who want to get inspired by our own journeys and yourself to transform your life and create a less stress and more purpose. And in this episode, more productivity. Right. So we will focus on peak performance without getting stressed out. And I have an incredible guest with me today. I don't think you barely need an introduction, Doug, but you're an transformational coach, international speaker, and also former corporate leader who has also written a book about mindset and productivity. So can you please introduce, it's great having you here. Could you please shortly introduce yourself to those people that don't know you?
Yeah, sure, Stina. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the show and lovely to be talking internationally from here in Ireland across to Sweden as well. So I'm sure there's many people across there listening in.
Great.
So a big thank you. And look, in terms of myself, I worked in the investment world for 21 years and then moved across after a near-death experience and some stress ailments and everything like that, across to being initially a healer and then a life coach, then a radio presenter, then speaking on stage all around the world, and then on top of that, doing executive coaching, corporate training, and keynotes. So what I do is I teach people in terms of high performance success without stress, leadership, productivity, as you mentioned, performance. One of my businesses called Performance Optimization. Another one of my businesses called the Leadership and Life Mastery Summit as well. So it's all forms of leadership in terms of, making sure you're speaking from a conscious leadership point of view, where you are really trying to create trust and inspiration rather than command and control. And also in terms of sales and presentation skills, what I teach, it's all about consciously communicating with people to create long-term relationships rather than just trying to get quick wins. So everything I do is about productivity, performance, leadership, and energy in terms of my healing side of my things as well, because your health is your wealth. And if you can get into the highest energetic state, you're going to get more done in less time with less stress. So I enable people and leaders to be able to do that so they can achieve the best they possibly can achieve.
So great. It's really summarizing exactly what your mission is, right? You're here to, that is such a nice, health is wealth, it's a really good, something that is very important today. And also both in private life and also working life, but you're mostly working with top leaders, right? And also executives and that. Thoughts about defining your life, what you were supposed to do with your life, because you had a quite diverse career, right? So what was the wake-up calls for you to start with this?
Sure, Stina. So So, as I said, I was working in the investment world for 21 years, but as many people remember, in 2008, markets fell through the floor. We had a really struggling time in terms of the financial crisis. And at that point, we had to lay off a lot of people in our company. And at that point, I got stressed, even though I was performing very highly. I still, really had a lot of friendships there. And I could see the people carrying boxes out of the office. I felt very sad for them, obviously. And at that point, I ended up getting stressed. And that stress and anxiety led to ailments, to doctors, to specialists, to 2 operations that went wrong at the end of 2009 on my digestive gut. And then that led to 3 or 4 years, in fact, of chronic pain. And it was like I was being punched in the stomach. And that really caused even more anxiety and stress. I've been playing the likes of, Premier League field hockey, playing with alongside internationals and stuff like that. And then to suddenly find my body being affected in this way was really depressing. And that depression and anxiety led to massive stress. And that stress led to my performance. I still performed, but I had to really focus and learn different techniques and tricks to be able to cope with the pain at the same time. And then when I thought nothing could get any worse, in 2013, I ended up getting the norovirus, which is like a stomach bomb. It's like a big stomach bug. And after 10 days of serious dehydration, literally running to the toilet 100 times during the day, I ended up having electrolytes down to about 0. And an ambulance was called. The ECG in the ambulance said heart as an issue. Blood pressure literally doubled. I was brought into a hospital, and then at that point, run down to X-ray because they thought it was some kind of blockage in the gut, and it wasn't. But it was just on that way down, I suddenly passed over into this amazing feeling of love, energy, and connection. Nothing like I'd ever felt before. There was no man with a beard, but there was this living, conscious energy that was binding and connecting me to everything. And there was no voice as such, but there was this knowing that was telling me that I needed to change my life in some way or form and find a sense of purpose that matched my heart self rather than my head self. Because when I got into what I was doing in terms of the financial world, I was basically trying to chase money. And, there's nothing wrong with money because money is an exchange for energy, experience, or time. And if you have good of all of those, then you're adding value to people's lives. And hopefully you should get paid well for it if you're valuing yourself. But at the same time, if you chase that solely, then you might find your soul not singing as much as you might like. And that's why it's so important to really chase a sense of purpose. So I did all my goals. I wanted to have a 6-figure annual salary. I did that within 5 years. I wanted a family. I did that. I wanted to have, houses with no mortgages. I did that. And then when I had no more goals, no more purpose, no more direction, I suddenly had the near-death experience. But what I found then is since then, I initially, as I said, I became a healer to heal myself. And once I'd healed myself, and once I started learning to connect to my heart more than my head and be able to discern situations of stress in a more positive manner, that helped me become more emotionally intelligent, vibrate. And they always say your vibe attracts your tribe. Vibrate at a more peaceful, positive, but also, really high vibe level. And that then changed my life. It changed my health, it changed my outlook, it changed my relationships and everything like that. But it took some time, I have to say.
Yeah. It's a lot of moments in your life that you had many things happening to you. I mean, that must really many wake-up calls, right? Do you think that those were like, did you have some warning signs before it? Because what I would like to ask is there something that you wish people would understand about stress and achievement that is the breaking point, or something that you ignore the warning signs? Is something there that you learned through this process that you had taken with you in your own techniques that you learn to other people?
Yeah, well, 100%, Stina. So if we go back before 2008 even, I always found myself with indigestion and probably a little bit of IBS, which people can look that up. I won't mention what it is. But between the two of those, they didn't help. And they're all stress related, really, or they were all stress related. And I had cameras down here, up there, everywhere, really. It was funny. I always used to say in my presentations to the investment guys that we have a bottom up, top down way of investing, and I had cameras bottom up and top down. And it was quite a stressful oriented thing, but I did kind of ignore it in terms of, I went to the doctors and I got pills, but I wasn't changing my lifestyle. And I really believe that if everybody looks after their lifestyle and their well-being and what they eat and their mental health, they might just find that they don't need to go to the doctor. And I have actual evidence of that with my own self, because up until probably end of 2013, I was going to the doctor at least monthly, probably weekly, with some kind of stress-related ailment that I didn't see at the time. And that was going on probably since about, probably 2007. Well, maybe not going every week in 2007, but maybe 2008. But then once I started discovering mindfulness, well-being, reduce my alcohol, meditation, gratitude, proper exercise that was good for me, healthily for me, and not over pushing me, all of those combined together with good nutrition suddenly changed me as a person and the way I felt. And I'd say since 2013, may have been to the doctor less than 10 times. And I'd say quite a few of those was medicals for just checkups and stuff like that as well. So it just really shows you that when you look after yourself in a preventative manner, you won't have to go anywhere.
No, that's great. And many people don't have the time or don't take the time to do that. But it's really so, you have your different daily techniques, but everything is, well, if you do one of those things that you say, then it's a better thing than do nothing, right? So it's really good to have those kind of habits that you can have in your daily life.
Well,
can you share, if you look around, because you've spoken on many stages around the world and everything, what is the common stress trigger that you can see amongst people that you meet? And how do they tackle it? Do you have some kind of case that you can explain a little bit about that is quite obvious that this is the majority of the people?
Well, I'll give you two. I'll give you one on a holistic one, and then I'll give you a business one as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think the biggest stress that I find in business and in life is actually ego. And ego is when people are coming from their head self. It's when they're overthinking rather than getting into their heart self, where they're coming from a place of love. Because when you come from a place of love, you can't have fear. When you come from a place of ego, as in running around in your head, that's when fear can come in. And when you have fear, it creates a dis-ease within the body. And over time of prolonged periods of fear and stress and anxiety, that can cause actual disease as well. And it's been proven in many points of view. Even I think in Stanford University, they've done research into forgiveness and showing that people that can't let go and can't forgive, sometimes it's led to things like cancer and other ailments as well. So autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to be able to balance your mindset. And one of the things I'd say is I had one particular client who, top CEO of a business, making millions every single year, and he was focusing on ego. He was focusing on achievement. He was focusing on, I'll be happy when I get there. And then he get there, and then I'll be happy when I get here. And then he get there and he still wouldn't be happy. And also the biggest thing, especially with some people who I find in business, is they take things very personally. And when you look at things with personal eyes, you personalize. And when you personalize situations, sometimes it's not actually about you. It's just about the other person. And the other person may be going through some stuff that doesn't agree with them. They might be unhappy. They like hurt people, right? So if you're their closest, nearest and dearest, or working with you every day, they may sometimes project out to you, because they trust you, or may trust you in some way or form, their deepest inner feelings. And that might be a lot of hurt. So instead of getting wrapped up in their emotion and commotion, it's really good if you can kind of put yourself on the 10th floor, look back down as the observer, and ask yourself, what's happening here? What am I observing here? What can I learn from here? How can I help this person? Or even just learn from it to grow myself in some way or form, rather than getting wrapped up, almost gamifying it. And I think that really has helped me as well, because in the past, even my own self, when a boss or a client or a colleague has said something to me that I didn't like, I would wrap it up in my head, overthinking it 100 times. Did they mean this, or did they mean that? And it's a complete waste of energy. And when you waste energy, you can cause stress and anxiety because of the overthinking and everything like that. The amygdala, which is the kind of monkey mind part of the brain, it was very useful in the old days when there was a tiger or a lion or even a dinosaur about to eat you, because it makes you very self-aware, makes you like this all the time. But nowadays it comes through little niggles and arguments and emails and everything like that as well. So it's not as useful. So it's very important to be able to discern and control your mind and calm yourself through breathing exercises, through self-regulation, through gamifying life to not take it so seriously. But one of the most important things, I think, as well, is making sure you're living a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, a sense of why that aligns to your heart self rather than your head self. So that when these things come in, you look at them as if you're playing a PlayStation game, and you're the hero of the game, going for your mission, whatever purpose it is. And there will be little objections coming in along the way to try and stop you getting there. So instead of getting all upset about them, just going, right, I am the hero of this story, and I'm just going to gently move through them in an emotionally intelligent manner and understand that my goal, my purpose is the love for what I do, the love for the people I work with, and the love for the clients that I serve, which I say in an acronym, love is an acronym for lots of vibrant energy. So if you can stick in your energy rather than getting wrapped up in other people's energies, you'll find yourself in a lot less stressed state.
And that is a universal challenge, I think. People have that.
100%.
When the external environment is always there, it's just on social media. It's also, I mean, everything is influencing you in some way, in a subconscious way. But I'm thinking that's the biggest challenge for people to shift their mindset, or what? Because I'm interested to know what is your quick fix for a mindset shift? You know, to reduce this influence on from external environment and stress that it gives you, the thoughts that you have and everything.
Yeah.
Do you have some quick fix mindset shift that you can perhaps share with us?
Yeah, well, as I said, I mean, the quickest fix really is detachment from situations, detachment from ego, detachment from material things, and detachment from worrying about what other people think. So it's to stop yourself when you feel that tension inside. Stop yourself in the moment. Actually stop yourself in the moment and say to yourself, is this my truth? So if your ego is going, you need to attack this person back, or this is a terrible thing, or oh my God, your life's over, whatever. Just stop yourself in the moment and just say to yourself, if you can out loud, but if not, just to your own self, really, is this my truth? Because probably what you'll find is that your monkey mind is playing with you. Your fear side of you is playing with you. Ego, as I always say, is edging God out. And when you're attached to your higher self, your best self, you're almost attached to your godlike self. And I truly believe that when we get into that state of love, and we're coming from that place of love, it's very quick to help. So one of the best things, actually, it's a preventative thing that helps, is when I'm going into any situation, that it might be a board meeting, it might be going on stage where I might get difficult questions, or even coming on here, maybe there might be something. I put my hand on my heart and I say, I am Doug Gordon, I am my heart. Please let me connect with the hearts of the audience in order to bless rather than impress and add as much value. So that way, what I'm doing is I'm getting myself out of my head self into my heart self, getting myself out of the place of ego into a place of love. So if I make a mistake in this, I don't mind, because I'm just trying to come from a place of love. I'm just trying to add value. I'm just trying to be helpful to you and the audience. So when you get into that intentional state, that knowing state. Now, if people are listening, if I was to ask you, Stina, is your name Stina? And you said, I think it is. That's not the answer you're going to say, because you know it is. So you're not going to say, I believe it is, because you know it is. So when you know something, when you know you're in that intentional state of love and just adding value to people, it won't matter about the ego. It won't matter what people, negative things they say to you, if you're coming from that place and you're vibrating from that place. But if you are vibrating in a place of ego, worry, fear, wanting to look good, wanting to impress people, then you're going to have stress, then you're going to have problems, then you're going to have emotion and commotion in your body. But if you're in this sense of non-attachment to what other people say, and that includes keeping your energy separate, because remember, if you have two people in a relationship, say this is your, I'm a man, so I'll say this is my partner, and she comes back from work, she's really stressed, she's had some problem, she's like this. Quite often, what we often do, because we love them, we come up and kind of give them a hug. And we also sometimes, men especially, want to be fix-its because they don't want to see their partner being upset. They then get wrapped up in this emotion and commotion, and then they're vibrating it the same way, and sometimes there can be an explosion. So that's why you're laughing, because you know it's true, right?
Yeah, but many people, I think many people recognize this, because it's a stressed environment, and then you don't think about it, but you have to think about it. You have to have those relationship and that love, because the love that you're talking about is so important. But stress and love is not equal to each other, you know. When you're stressed out, it's difficult to feel love because you're stressed out.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
and
that getting there, I think it's a process, and I think I agree with you about this, finding the purpose of your life and feeling that you have a meaning, that what you're doing is meaningful, and that is from the heart, right? But does that come from some traumatic experience that you have had people in general, or for people that have no traumas and have no it's merry-go-round in life? They are like, okay, it's just living and nothing is happening. Do they not see this, or do you think that this is something that's just a mind shift that everybody's able to see? Because I think many people that I've talked to are people that have gone through something and then hit the rock bottom, right? Something like that, and then they have after that, reflected on their life, right?
Well, yes, that's true. And obviously, what happens is they turn their mess into a message to give it meaning and help others, or turn their tragedy into a triumph. And that's very common. Having said that, for those of you out there that haven't had some kind of trauma, that's great. That might be that you're already living your sense of purpose, because I find that the inner self tends to wake us up and create these terrible things to people when they're not following their path of purpose. But if you want,
Oh, I agree with you. That is really clever. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so if
You have to wake up.
if you're not following that path of purpose, then you might want to work out what that is. So what you can do is you can write down, say, 5 things that you know you're really gifted at and you're good at. And then write down 5 things that you absolutely love and enjoy doing. And then write down 5 things that you know through those that you can add value to people. And through a match of those 3, you should be able to find some kind of direction, purpose, and goals to really get there. And the other one is to imagine, like, I speak on stage all around the world. If I was to give you guys a stage in front of 10,000 people and you were 95 years of age, still with lots of energy, what would you talk about? What would you be most passionate about? What legacy would you want to leave? And when you know what that is in terms of that message, then you can reverse engineer yourself back to where you are today and ask yourself, okay, what do I need to do? Who do I need to collaborate with? Who do I need to learn from so that I can stand on that stage, give that speech, and leave that legacy? And that'll give you direction. It'll give you purpose and a sense of really good fulfillment within as well. But I will say, those of you out there who can't move job and are stuck in a job because you're paying bills, looking after family or whatever, you can create purpose within there. Because what you can do is you can look at the energetics of your job, how it interlinks. It might not be direct, but how it interlinks through other people in your organization to that end customer. And when you can see the energetics of what you do and how it adds value to somebody in some way or form, it can give you a sense of purpose. So for example, I was in the investment management world selling hedge funds and mutual funds before. At the time, I thought it was transactional. But when I look back now, I realized that we really had some really good funds. So by getting the clients to move into our funds, we were potentially helping that end granny or grandpa retire younger, give more to their children, buy a better retirement home, or have a better life. So when you realize that interaction of how you might be bettering lives, whether you're the janitor, whether you're the secretary, or you're the CEO, it can really make a difference to how you feel and how you spring out of bed every single day.
And if we go back, that's really something that has to do with productivity as well. Because if you feel well with your situation, both privately and professionally, then you have the energy to produce and be productive, right? So where is the correlation there, according to you, regarding the shift of mindset and also not being stressed out by things, not being externally involved, but looking inside yourself with the purpose? How does that correlate regarding the productivity and the achievement part of people? Do you think it's a correlation there, and what is that equal to?
So Stina, there's an article, actually, people look it up on Forbes magazine, where they prove that just happier staff are 20% more productive. Happier salespeople apparently 37%